All right, what's up everybody? I'm back. So I just got done lapping all the valves on the head except for one exhaust valve. I had a request via fan to show how to do this or film the process, so I'm gonna get to it here. Tools you guys will need: simple pair of gloves, some of these cheap $10 valve lapping wood sticks you can get at any store, Amazon, whatever. Some toothpaste, permatex valve grinding compound, a red Sharpie, a pick, some clean shop towels. I've got a cup of ATF or Marvel Mystery Oil here, and a cup of diesel 540 synthetic because I had some laying around from my old truck, and a can of compressed gas duster. All right, so pair of gloves, pretty simple. All right, now obviously you've been working on your head like I have. I've been trying to get gasket material off the surface and everything. Stuff tends to get in the valve guides that you don't want. So take your compressed air and blow that down in the valve guide, make sure there's nothing in there. Take my exhaust valve that has not been done yet. Get myself a nice clean paper towel. You don't want to get any of this stuff on your stem, because when you put it down in your guide and you twist it, that will just destroy your valve guide. So start out with a clean valve. I take my other hand, open the cap, and I just kind of dab it on the outside of the valve. You want some on the very top outer edge, and then you want most of it on the actual 45-degree-ish seat portion. Okay, pretty simple. And then I grab the valve, I stick just the stem in the diesel oil so it's got plenty of lubrication, stick it in the port, push it down. Wiped anything off my gloves that got on there, wipe the excess off the valve. Pretty simple so far. So I learned this toothpaste trick from a guy online, and if you're watching this video, thanks for that tip, because this definitely does help. Put a little dab of toothpaste on the valve, so you don't gotta lick it before you stick it, you know what I mean? And then for this one, I'm using a small valve tool for the exhaust side. For the intake side, I use the large tool. And get yourself a nice comfortable chair, and you just stick it, just like that. And now this is all based off feel and sound, and you'll actually hear it. This valve grinding compound from Permatex, it starts out as a 120, grinds down to a fine 220, and you'll hear it. So here we go. Wax on, wax off. And what I do is I just lift the valve after each rotation to get some fresh compound under it, and then you can actually hear the grit change tone, and you can feel it. And I just go until I don't have much grit left in that paste. You'll be able to tell. Like my brother said when it comes to lapping valves, when I asked him, what's your process? He says, you'll know when they're done. And I can't really say it much better than myself. But you hear how it's changed tone significantly, and then it goes back to grit. I keep working it till I don't have much of that grit left. And that's pretty much it. So take the valve back out, get myself another fresh paper towel. I like to take the old compound off the valve, inspect it, take my rag, get all the compound out of the port so that you have all fresh material and surface when you go back in. Yeah, and for me, what I found is once is not enough, twice is just right, 3 times is too many, you know, like the bears and the porridge and stuff. So take my compound here. I got the valve still stuck to a stick, so it makes it a little bit easier. That's probably way too much, but big thing is you don't want to get that down into the valve guide. All right, so dip it back in some oil, put her back into the hole, and do the whole thing again. Now this time I'm just gonna do it so you can listen to the change in tone. Here we go. All right, that feels pretty good right there. So take the old girl out, get that paper towel, get all that grit off of there. I'll show you guys what it looks like with a fresh surface on it. You can see that machined gray look. That's all the fresh seat lap on the valve. And so once I get the valve cleaned, I take it and I dip the head of the valve into some ATF and shake it around. Put the valve back on a table where it goes. And then I take my red Sharpie and I put a little red mark on the top of the stem so I know that I did that valve. Forgot to do this one. And then I come back to the head and I put a red dot on the port that valve came out of so that I know it's been done. And when you have 24 of them to do, it's likely that your phone's gonna go off or your kid's gonna come out wanting you to do something. So it just helps you keep track. And then wipe all this crap out because it will destroy the motor. And just wiping it out is not good enough. You're gonna have to legitimately clean the head, wash it down, but that's pretty much it. And then once I'm done with whatever, I did these in 3 sets of 8, just so I didn't lose my mind lapping valves. I just take my finger and I put some fresh ATF on each valve seat. Now, I mean, the next step with this head is going to be to get the rest of the gasket material off the surface, and then it's going to go in the parts washer, and I'm going to let it soak, and then I'm going to start cleaning it up. And then after that, it's meticulously cleaning all the valve train, reassembling, and then I'll bag it and tag it and wait to put it back on the motor. So hopefully that was beneficial to some of you. All right, so I went ahead and put the head in the parts washer and I scrubbed it over once for the first time. Now I'm gonna let it soak in here for probably like an hour. And I got the block mains back on, all the bearings are out of it, so that when I get done with the head assembly, I can start cleaning the block, hone the block, clean it, paint it. And so once that's done soaking, I'm gonna come out, scrub it again. I'll move it over to the table. I'll probably put it in some warm Dawn dish soap water to neutralize any of the solvent. And then I'll air dry it on the compressor, put it back over here on all fresh new towels, and then I'll move on to cleaning the valve train and then reassembling the head. All right, welcome back. So off camera, I got the head all cleaned up, ready for reassembly. I didn't bore you with that, but just in case you're wondering, to get the gasket surface prepped, red Scotchbrite pads and a lot of elbow grease, and then I checked the deck with a precision machinist ruler. Put it in the parts washer, scrubbed it down, let it sit for an hour and soak in there, scrubbed it again, took it outside, rinsed all the solvent out of the passages, and then covered it with gunk foaming engine cleaner, which you got to be careful with that stuff because, you know, oven cleaner, engine cleaner, all that stuff is abrasive to aluminum, or not abrasive, but it'll cause corrosion. So I don't leave it on there long, and then rinsed everything off again, You got to make sure all these head stud holes, all these coolant passages, oil passages, everything's got to be clear. You're going to have gasket material and stuff all in there. Your valve seat areas where your valves go. You can't over clean this to get everything out. And then once I'm done with that, I took the compressed air hose and blew every port out, upside down, light side up. Brought it over here to the bench, put some ATF on my finger and rubbed that on all the valve seats to prevent corrosion. And then flipped it over, rubbed ATF on all the bearing surfaces to prevent corrosion, and then bagged it. So now today, I'm gonna move on to cleaning all the valve train and then lubing up the necessary parts and reinstalling it. So I'll bring you along for that. All right, so what I have here is Power Division new valve seals. These are Vitan valve seals. I got these from Radindustries. Most guys building big horsepower builds are using these. They're good for high heat operations. It's such a cheap seal. I think these are 20 bucks that you might as well go with the good ones. You know what I'm saying? So, cool thing about the Titan or the Valve Master tool here is it also doubles as a valve seal installer. So you just take said valve seal on the retainer removal side with the magnet and you just stick it in there. It fits inside there, perfecto, and then you just push it on. Alright, there you can see all the valve seals installed. It doesn't take much to get them on. You just got to be real careful that they go on straight so you don't kink them up. And then I just took a fine pick here and very gently just inspected inside on the seat to make sure that they were all seated. You can feel the guide, and then up to the seal, make sure that there's no gap. So now we're ready to put the valves in. Like, catch back up to where I was here. All right, well, I just got done washing all the valve stems, or all the valves in the parts washer, just to make sure we get all that polish and grit and compound out of the metal. Now I got a fresh cup of ATF sitting here, Marble Mr. Oil, whatever. And basically, I'm gonna start by cleaning each valve as I install it. I'm gonna take said valve. I'm gonna start on the intake side. Dip it in the ATF, swirl it around, take a fresh towel, and I'm just gonna clean this valve, make sure there's nothing on it. Okay. And you can see the ATF's got a little discoloration to it, so just cleaning it. I'm gonna clean the seat. And now I'm gonna take some engine assembly lube. It's got moly and some other stuff in it. And lube up the shaft, so to speak, of this valve, so that when I push it into the seat, it's lubricated, or into the valve guide, I'm sorry, it's lubricated. Take a little bit of this assembly lube, just get it on the there we go. Take that bad boy and put it right into his home. Nice. And that seat valve fits nice in there. Brand new home. So that's it. I'm going to do that and repeat it 23 times. And then once I have them all in, we'll flip the head over and go from there. All right, all the valves are in. Everything went in nice and smooth. So if I installed those valve seals correctly, when I flip this over, the valves should all stay. Oh, it's a beautiful sight. That is a beautiful sight. So now I'm just gonna go through and inspect all of them to make sure that none of the seals got disrupted or anything like that. And then the next step is to install these valve spring seats that protect the aluminum surface on the head. The spring sits right on top of that. But I'm going to go through and inspect. I'll bring you back. All right, so I've got all the spring seats in, which you can just see by the gray lube colored circle there at the base of what got installed. So now I'm going to take each spring and keeper. I'm going to wash them in the parts washer. I'm going to dip the springs in some diesel oil and lube up the actual valve buckets with some moly and start reassembling. There we go. One clean spring. Drop her in the diesel oil. Bring her up. Yeah, let her drain. And the first spring going back into its home. Clean the keeper, the retainer as well. Get in there. Come back to me. All right, so I'm going to show you how to use the old tool here. So this is the side we use to remove the keepers. Pop her out. Put her back in. You can see it has a simulated valve stem here, and that punches flat once we push them in. So we're just going to take the keepers here. Here we go. And it's that simple. So the tool's instructions say to put the things on the actual tool. I just set them inside the retainer, and then you saw me just push it in real easy. So let's do another one while I'm not fingering around with my fingers here. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this bucket. Now for this bucket, I'm going to go ahead and put some of this assembly lube on it, just to make sure that that first 15 seconds or so it's got some tacky guaranteed oiling on the surface here. There we go. Exhaust valve number 1 reinstalled. So now I'm going to do the same thing 23 more times. Okay, I'm going to show you an install here with a better view. So here's my oiled up spring. Okay. Cleaned and oiled up spring retainer. Take my little valve stem locks, which are large beveled end up, and I set them in. Currently working on exhaust valve number 3. At least number 3 isn't how I label them. I'm going to pick our tool here and just sharp press, and you can feel them lock. You can hear the sound too. Okay, that time it didn't lock, so I didn't push hard enough. Let's try it again. There you go, now you hear the sound. And they're locked in. Next thing we do is just clean our shimmed bucket, which the buckets I'm not comfortable putting in the solvent, so I'm just putting those in ATF and then wiping them down like so. And then once I get them wiped, I'm going to take some moly or engine assembly lube. I'm just going to lube up the outside of the bucket. And then also lube up the inside. And then we just take it. Make sure it's the right one for the right valve. And it should just drop right in. Should being the key word here. There we go. Didn't have her quite straight on there. So that's it. That's how you do it. I even showed you what happens when you don't push the tool hard enough. The other ones went on real easy. That one I just, because of the way I have the camera, couldn't really push on it like normal. But I tell you what, guys, if you're doing this, get yourself this Toyo tool from Valve Master. You just Google Valve Master Toyo tool, it'll pop right up. And it's labeled which one's the right one for a 2J. So, alright. I think you guys have seen enough. I'm going to go ahead and assemble the rest of these, and I'll bring you back when it's done. Alright, there you have it, folks. Welcome back. Today is all about the block. Boom. I've already scraped the deck with some Carbide blades, gasket scrapers. These little guys, cheap, off Amazon. Next step is going to be to ball hone the cylinders. The 2J is like a 3.39 or something like that. When you go to Flex Hone's site, they actually tell you what size hone to get for the cylinder size you're using. You want it to be a little bit larger. So this is a 3.5 inch hone, 320 grit, and I plan on doing 20 down and ups each cylinder. So 20 sets of passes per cylinder. The motor's only got 59,000 on it. The cylinder walls still have cross hatching in them. They're not really that glazed, so this should just clean up with a flex hone. And there's no pitting and rust in the walls. So I'm gonna go ahead and get prepped for that. I'll bring you back. All right, we're back. So I went ahead and lubed up each cylinder with some, you guessed it, 540 synthetic diesel that I got laying around. I like diesel because it's sticky and it's tacky and it hangs to the metal surfaces. Flex Hone recommends 10W30 or their honing oil, and then they also recommend a 500 to 800 RPM drill, 60 to 120 strokes per minute, and accelerate final stroking to develop 45-degree crosshatch. Honing time should be approximately 20 to 45 seconds. So I went ahead and lubed up the hone itself with some WD-40. And now we're going to get to it. Big thing it says is to start and stop outside of the bore. So here we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. My drill hung up there. Let's do another pass. All right. So there's the cylinder I have not done. There's the cylinder I have done. Oh yeah. Look at that nice hatch pattern there. That's just some more grease I gotta clean off, but nice 45-degree hatch compared to, you know, factory with semi-glaze on it. So I'm gonna keep going. Let's do another one. Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Woo! Running out of breath. Need to do more cardio. Pretty legit. Too legit to quit. Look at that. Brand new cylinder. Pretty impressed with that hone. Super easy to use. And now my brand new piston rings will have a surface to bed in on. Go back and do this cylinder 10 more times. But we're gonna keep going and get the rest of the cylinders done first. Dude, this hone is legit. Now granted, these cylinder walls are pretty good and low mileage motor, but man, they cleaned up pretty nice. This one's got a little bit of staining in it, but I can't catch a fingernail on it, so I'm gonna run it. But yeah, hopefully that makes those new rings bed in nicely. Big fan. Big fan of that hone. It does make a huge mess though, so be prepared for that. All right, so I went ahead and cleaned up the head gasket surface, cleaned up the lower cradle surface, cleaned up the water pump surface and the oil pump surface, and then I went ahead, pulled the knock sensors, knocked all the heavy rust off the block just using a bunch of wire brushes and a drill. You can see here it's not perfect, but I did get all the heavy rust off. The pressure washer will get a bunch more off, and then I'll use a propane torch to kind of heat the block up to make sure it's dry before I paint it. Obviously blow it out with air, lube up the cylinders, all that good stuff. So there it is. The DIY machine work is done. So now we're just going to clean this block, get it as clean as we possibly can, and start painting it. All right, so my mic failed here. Basically, I just got done cleaning the block really good, and the big thing you got to worry about here is corrosion and rust. As soon as you stop spraying water, it's starting to rust. So I got a propane or a kerosene heater going to get the shop warmed up. I aired out the motor with some compressed air. WD-40 all the cylinders and all the machine surfaces immediately, and then compressed air the block really well, got everything off of it. You got a very limited time here, so you got to be organized and quick about it. Here you can see me using a propane torch. I'm going through the whole block and basically heating up all the block to make sure that all the moisture is burnt off, and any oil residue or any stuff that you can see paint's not going to stick to. And while you're doing this, the block will actually change colors, so you got it clean. And that's pretty much it. Once I got this done, I went ahead and wiped down the block with acetone and started taping it up, prepping it for paint. Oh, would you look at that beauty? Yes, sir. You can't have a gold edition. Yes, that is a legitimate gold edition, special edition from Mercedes in 1988. You can't have a gold edition Merc without a gold edition 2J. Gold! There it is. All that nasty greeting, cleaning, and working on the head and everything else. Now we're at the point where everything's getting fun. So really, the only thing left to do for the block is to polish the crank, which I'm going to do myself. I got some 400 grit wet sandpaper here, some Brasso, some cloths. The crank's in really good shape, so just gonna clean it up, polish it, and bring you back for the next video where we'll start putting in the new rings and gapping them and building the motor. So next video is gonna be super exciting. I can't wait. Like, we're legitimately building the engine next video. I can't tell you enough how much work goes into getting to this point. What most of these YouTube videos and all these other guys don't show you is hours and hours and hours of work to properly clean everything, prep everything. I mean, I've got like 3 days just in the head. You know, it's a lot of work. Like, you gotta budget yourself at minimum to rebuild a motor by yourself at your house with a day job and everything else. It's gonna take you a couple weeks easily. For anybody wondering what color I use VHT Universal Gold. The gold does not go down evenly because of all the metallic that's in it. So it takes a lot more light coats than like if you were using VHT Black. So I used one can and then I did another light coat with a second can. And as far as prep on the block, you guys saw me heat with the propane, and then I came back and taped off everything, and then I wiped everything with acetone. Get yourself a big old jug of it from Lowe's or Home Depot is the cheapest, and then I use this for TIG welding, but it keeps the acetone from evaporating, and then you can just squirt this on a rag. So that's pretty much it. I know this was a long video, guys, but I know there's somebody out there that actually wants to watch all the little processes that are involved in the DIY budget home mechanic rebuild. So I appreciate you guys for hanging in there. Go ahead and hit that subscribe, like button, share with your friends. We'll see you next time. Timeless Steel Garage. Thank you.